Today I'm busting the myth that good design has to cost a lot of money. This is something that is ruining our industry because good design doesn't have to cost more. It's just that there's this perception that expensive equals good, or that clients and designers are equating that a big budget means it's a better quality project. And this is not only ruining our industry, but it's ruining the possibility for us to get hired as designers. So what usually costs more? What usually blows a project out of or the budget out of proportion on a project? Well, it's usually bad or no planning on a project. That is the number one reason that projects go over budget. Not good design, it's bad planning. So this is something we need to understand, that actually having a better planned project is going to allow you to have good design just by even hiring a designer. So all of these things need to be put into perspective. Another thing that costs projects to go spiraling out of budget is last minute changes. We all know it. Making changes at the last minute is going to cost you more on a project. And this is why we have to start kind of changing this mentality that good design costs more. It doesn't cost that much more, and I'll tell you why in a second. Another thing that causes high cost in design is chasing trends. Something no one really says. But if you're chasing the latest trends, you're probably chasing the company who's creating the trend also. That might not be a very competitive price. And so the client wants a specific thing, and yet they're not really looking for alternatives. And so you're not even taking the time to look for alternatives because you are chasing the trend in the same way that your client is. And that creates more expensive result, because the most trendy is usually the most expensive, because it's usually the luxury brands who are creating that trend. So when you think about the things that are driving expense or higher cost in design for interiors or architecture, it's not design, it's bad decisions by either clients or designers. So in terms of either not hiring a designer to do good planning at the outset of a project, to plan the project properly. Also a designer who doesn't tell their client that making changes, or don't design up front and then to limit changes later, that's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to make sure that you're going to get what you're building, or what you've designed. And then obviously designing for longevity rather than chasing the current trend. And a lot of designers believe that they are designing timeless interiors, but have a look around. I mean, even like I've just like one of my most recent samples, this is a trend. So it's really important to see that high quality design doesn't have to be trendy. There are things that we are being influenced by at any one time, which is popular on the market at the time, but making long design decisions for longevity. I recently went to a summit held by one of the leaders in architecture at the moment, Heatherwick Studio, and he's a proponent of this idea of 1,000-year design. And we typically design buildings to last 40, 50, maybe 60 years. Trends last 10 max. So when you think about designing for 1,000 years, all of a sudden that puts everything into perspective. Think of a building that you could actually name that has lasted 1,000 years. It's not that many, but we're building at the moment for such short amounts of time. So our brain is thinking about, it only needs to last 10 years. But that thinking is flawed. So have a look at Heatherwick Studio, and have a look at their Humanise, their push for designing better buildings. That's just a side note. But something else that he said that really stood out to me was that good design doesn't have to cost that much more. And this is really the key of what I'm trying to say here today, because the return on that, he's saying that it does, or it might cost a little more, but the value and what you get back from designing a better quality building or a longer lasting building, a building that holds so much value and quality that people cherish it more, so they want to keep it for longer. They want to make it work. A bit like beautiful buildings from the past that we do find new uses for, because we love them so much. They've got meaning for us, and not only for us as designers, but the owners of the building, the community who see value in that building, even the view from a street towards a building. So these are the things that as humans we cherish, and we're losing this because we have this idea that good design costs more, and that's an easy thing for us to fall back on. It's easy for us to be lazy designers and not very good designers, because it means that, well, we don't have to do much because cost is driving the project, and because of that I'm not going to put so much effort into it. Who was it? Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge, and the reason, what he meant by that is that problem solving, the ideas are what is more useful, because all it takes is a bit of thought. And we have like this excuse in our industry that we are not designing to the best that we can, because especially, I suppose, more architecture and interior design, because we keep on saying that, it's going to cost so much more to do this. Not necessarily. What it's going to cost you is some thought, and that is really where where I'm going with this, is if you just took the time to think through the problem and try and find a creative solution that doesn't cost more, then all of a sudden, because there's always a way. One of my favorite quotes in the world is Marie Forleo's, "Everything is figure outable." So try and find the solution. It doesn't have to cost more. Good design doesn't have to cost more. It just has to take a little bit extra thought and effort. And this is the thing, the effort in the thought, right? It does take time. And it does take like mental just a lot of mental effort to think through an idea. But I'm just thinking of myself when I was a young and passionate designer, that was easy for me because I naturally had all of these creative ideas. These days, I had to say no to a project recently because I caught myself saying, I am not going to be I'm not going to give this project the passion and creativity that it deserves, because I've done too many of these projects in a way that I think I've exhausted that part of myself, and so I passed that project on to another designer. You need to catch yourself if you're at that point now as a designer where you are bored of the projects that you're doing, or you're just churning the projects out, or you're not feeling as passionate. Find the passion again. Find the creativity, find the things that are going to make your designs better again. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Because the result we're getting are really unsustainable, boring buildings that are not bringing anyone joy or pleasure. And we're also losing our cultural connection with buildings. If you look around the modern or most contemporary areas around the world, in all major cities, everything's starting to look the same, no matter where you are, whether you're in China, USA, UK, Europe, Australia, Asia. All of the new buildings are starting to look the same, and we're starting to lose all of those cultural differences that make us special, that give us meaning to buildings, and all of the things that as humans we need to connect to our surroundings. So think of the decisions that you've made, either for clients or for yourself in your own designs, and start to think about, did they cost more or much more, or was it the idea that made the biggest difference? So you've already done this. Try and start replicating this more and more. There's a designer who, a cabinet maker and joiner, that I spoke on a panel with, I think it was last year at the Craftwork Summit in London. His name is James Torble, and he uses larch instead of pine, because that is just not only a naturally more locally sourced material, but no one knows that people are throwing this away. They're burning it for firewood, but it's actually a really sustainable and much better product than pine. But because people know pine, they're using pine. So it's just something like simple, doing a little bit of research, and just this simple idea of swapping larch for pine or pine for larch, or the other way around, that can make such a big difference. They look very similar, in fact, and the result could be similar if you're looking for a pine look, but the meaning behind it is so much more responsible, but also it's just more intelligent design, and it actually requires less, for example, chemicals to treat it, because it's a longer lasting material. So actually you're getting better quality and even less money in that case. Like, it costs less to use that product, because at the moment no one's using it and there's an abundance of the product. So it's just intelligent design rather than expensive design. So that idea that expensive equals good is really, really flawed. So what are the key takeaways? I say sell your creativity and the value that you're providing. So it's in our thought. It's the stuff that we hold in here that is really what's selling our designs, and what is going to bring the cost down. Not good design costs more. It doesn't. And Heatherwick said it himself. It doesn't necessarily have to cost more. Also, you don't have to wait for the perfect project to create these opportunities. I remember when I started my business, I was predominantly working on hundreds and hundreds of e-design projects. That's how I started my business. I did e-design. But every single one of those e-designs, I proposed a bespoke custom piece of joinery. That was my thing. And I can tell you 98%, almost 99, like almost everyone went ahead and created a bespoke piece of joinery, whether with me or with someone else. They ended up doing it because it was the one thing, even on a very low cost budget project, that they could do to make it special. And it just goes to show that something so simple, it was just an idea or a thought of something special in every single design, that elevated my designs to a new level, made all of my clients love it, and the vast majority of them went ahead and did it. So what is that one thing that you can do in your designs that will change your idea of, or change this idea that expensive is good, or that good design costs so much more, because it really doesn't. And we're pricing it ourselves out of the market as designers by pushing this thinking. It's really outdated thinking. So if you want to be a better designer, if you want to be more creative and have the skills to do this, have a look at our mentorship options. We also have courses on our InterDesign platform, and we provide this kind of information for you at a very, very affordable price.